I'm Harry Cole, Sun's political editor on Spring Statement Day. In the studio is Ashely Armstrong, our business editor, and now we can speak to the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Darren Jones, a man who's about to get his axe out. Darren, the number one priority of this government, according to the Prime Minister, according to the Chancellor, and according to pretty much every Labour politician who ever goes on television, says the number one priority is growth. It's not going very well, is it?
Harry, come on. The economic growth forecast has been increased year after year after year for the forecast period. It's had to come down a little bit in the year ahead because of what's going on around the world. That's happened to every major economy in the G7. But the OBR, the Independent Office of Budget Responsibility today, has been very clear that as a consequence of the decisions that this Labour government is taking to stimulate growth in the economy and make people better off, not only is growth forecasted to go up, more than they forecasted it at the budget in autumn, but people's disposable income is going to get hundreds and hundreds of pounds better off with each and every year of a Labour government, so that your listeners will have more cash in their pockets at the end of each month. That's the thing to welcome and celebrate, isn't it, Harry?
Chief Secretary to the Treasury, are you seriously telling us that 1.9% growth next year, or 1.8% the year after, this is not enough? You need more than 2% growth a year to have anywhere near the scale of your ambitions, let alone your rhetoric, in what this government wants to do?
Our ambition is higher, you're right. We want more, we want to go further and faster. But the good news is that after the first 9 months of this Labour government, not only have we got a grip of our political and economic situation when we inherited this chaos of mess from the Conservatives before the last election, we've got a grip and we've got growth coming into the economy. That's because of the decisions we've taken, recognised by the independent forecasters today. That is good news, but yes, there's more to come.
Is it really good news, though, that inflation looks like it's going back the wrong way? Anemic growth, as we've discussed. Should we really be congratulating you today and saying, well done, the jobs are good, and when you were 14 billion in the red, wiped off of your own headroom, you promised stability and cleaning up, but you're in a doom loop, aren't you?
Harry, I don't know if you're up about 7 o'clock this morning, but inflation's gone down. It's coming back down towards target of 2%. And for the first time in ages, wages are growing faster than the price of the things we pay for in the shop. People only have to think back to a few years ago when the Tories were in office, when inflation went through the roof to 11% because of the bad decisions that Conservative ministers took, when our energy bills went up, our food prices went up, our rent and our mortgage went up. That is completely unacceptable. That's why the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been very clear. We will never play fast and loose with the economy because we know that means playing fast and loose with family finances. But today is a good day where we've got growth back into the economy and incomes increasing in the years ahead.
We really should be congratulating you when, the tax rises that you implemented at the last budget in October haven't even kicked in yet. And already growth in this country is being forecast for this year to be halved, down to just 1%. There's still plenty of pain coming. You've managed to find £5 billion of savings in the welfare bill. You're promising £6 billion worth of spending cuts, which I know you sort of oversee in your role as Chief Secretary to the Treasury. What happens in October, though, when exactly the same thing happens? The headroom's gone, global instability, you can blame or whatever you want, or whether it's your own decisions. Regardless, where are you going to get the money from next time?
Well, look, the reason the fiscal rules are non-negotiable is because we recognise that globally the cost of government debt has gone up and things are changing rapidly in terms of trade with other countries around the world. So we had to make sure that the UK was in a strong and stable position globally so that we can make sure that we're creating a strong and stable economy for families across the country. That's what the Spring Statement shows today, because we've met our fiscal rules. We've got headroom back to where it was when we announced it in the budget in the autumn. And we've increased investment into public services with upfront investment on our transformation fund so that we can make sure that we're running public services more effectively, as well as then matching the needs that we have to, for example, invest more money into defence and security in our country, which we all know is something we've got to do more of in the years ahead.
Chief Secretary, stay there. I'm going to bring in our business editor, Ashely Armstrong. Ashely, you've been crunching the numbers. You're looking through the small print. Is the Chief Secretary's optimism, sunny radiance, is it really acceptable?
Well, Darren, I'm pretty sure that we were both up as early as the birds behind you. But when you talk about kind of the inflation win that you might have had today, I mean, we all know that actually that inflation drop was a very short-term impact, and it's largely been because clothing retailers had to discount so heavily because consumers were feeling so glum about their finances because of all the uncertainty that has been created. So I'm not quite sure if you really can kind of wrap your arms around that one. And we know that inflation is going to go back up partly because of the extra costs that your budget created. And actually, a lot of businesses already today saying there's nothing in this spring statement for us. In a couple of days' time, they're all going to be having much higher bills, and they're going to be having to cut jobs and put up prices. And that lays at the foot of your Treasury.
The good news for business in this statement today is that the economy is going to be growing. It's going to be bigger by the end of this Parliament than it was before. And people across the country, working people who we've protected by not increasing their income tax.
But growth is halved for this
year. By
year.
protecting VAT that we pay on goods in the shops, people are going to have more cash in their pocket. So if you're running a business, that's great, because you've got more people in work with more money in their pocket at the end of each month and an economy that is growing. I entirely recognise that bigger businesses didn't want to have to pay additional employer national insurance contributions.
Not just bigger, small businesses as
well. Well, the scheme was designed to protect smaller businesses. Say 50% of businesses in this country will either be paying the same as or less than they did.
And a million businesses will be paying more.
So it's skewed towards bigger businesses. But we needed to take that decision because, one, we made a promise to working people not to increase their income tax or national insurance in their payslips or VAT in the shops. And, by the way, we made a very clear promise to business that we would keep corporation tax, the tax on business profits, flat for the whole of this Parliament. But of course, we had to get some money to put into frontline public services because they were on their knees and they needed stabilising off the back of 14 years of the Conservative Party. I think when I speak to businesses and investors in this country, they're very clear that the UK has a strong government with a strong majority, a very clear plan for economic growth. We're seen as a good bet for investment, and we want to be able to unlock that.
You don't feel like that they're bruised, because most of the businesses that I speak to still feel quite bruised by the fact that they thought that they were working in long stop with you and actually that they were battered by the budget, and there's nothing today to help them.
I just don't recognise that characterisation, Ashely. I mean, businesses are working with us on planning reforms, on skills reforms, on apprenticeships, on unlocking private sector investment into the economy, thinking about our trading relationships. There's a whole agenda here where we're working with businesses to be able to make them more successful, to create more profits, better jobs with higher wages. All of that has been reflected in the economic forecast today, which is good news for this country and good news for the economy.
Darren, it's not just NIC's rises that are going to hurt business, isn't it? The OBR is saying that the workers' rights bill, the employment laws that are currently going through Parliament, direct policy decisions made by your government in cahoots with the unions, are going to have a net negative impact, like in all likelihood, on the economy. They haven't even costed this yet, presumably because you guys know that actually growth is going to go down for policy choices made by Angela Rayner.
Look, we're very clear that it's better to grow the economy off the back of people who are in secure work. People are calling us to not take forward our employment rights bill, are saying you should grow the economy off the back of insecure work. This bill is trying to tackle fire and rehire, where staff are fired and then given less pay and less terms and conditions without any rights. It's about banning exploitative zero-hours contracts, where families don't know how much money they've got coming each week because their boss can just say, you have to come in, you can't come in. It's impossible to plan your family finances. Giving the most vulnerable and low-income workers in our country better protections at work is a good thing for them, and it means you can build sustainable economic growth in a way that is good for everybody. But that should be something
employers are telling us,
often left in those circumstances.
Employers, small and big, are telling us, and I'm sure they're telling you privately as well, that the easiest and quickest way to hit employment rates in this country is to give full employment works to workers on day one. You're just making the cost and risk of hiring people, especially at a time when you're trying to get people into their first jobs and off of benefits. Risky hiring is just going to go down the Swanee.
Well, it's important to remember that you still have to do a probation period. So probation periods are still allowed under the Employment Rights Bill. So your employer will set the probation period. And if you don't match the needs of the job, then your employer has the right to say, I'm sorry, this is not working out. But you also touched on another really important point, which is one of our changes in our welfare plan, where we're saying to people who are currently out of work, you have the right to try work, which means that we will give you the opportunity to be in work. And if it doesn't work out because of your disabilities or kind of additional needs, you won't go to the back of the queue for your support that you had previously. You'd go back to the position you were in to make it easier for people to transition into work.
Darren, final questions. I'm sure there's an aide standing next to you, looking at Bloomberg right now, looking at the markets. How do you think this is going to go?
Glaring at me, Harry.
I mean, it looks like you're borrowing more. Are you going to retain the confidence of the markets on that? And politically, do you have actually the political capital to do what actually needs to be done to cut the size of the state? You're caught in a bit of a bind, aren't you?
So we're increasing public spending over this.
I think that's what the markets are worried about.
Conservatives that cut it during austerity. But the markets can be reassured because our fiscal rules, which we've always said are non-negotiable, have been met today with adequate headroom. We will continue to make them non-negotiable, and that will be reflected in the spending review, where, yes, we're increasing investment up front, but as a consequence of that, we expect the cost of running public services to come down in the long term.
Darren Jones, Chief Secretary of the Treasury, get back to your desk and sharpen that axe. Thank you for joining us on Never Mind the Ballots.